Hello, everybody, and welcome to the discussion of the NFC North, the third to last division we will talk about as we slowly approach the beginning of the NFL season. If you enjoy, please like, subscribe, and comment down below your thoughts on the NFC North, and let's get right into it. Beginning with the Chicago Bears, they've had probably my favorite offseason of any team so far this year. And it's mainly because they have really focused on the trenches, which is something that they desperately needed to do. They traded for Jonah Jackson and Joe Tooney. It was a couple of day 3 picks they traded, and that was a great decision made by this front office. And that's exactly how you want your front office to handle an offseason when you have a young quarterback behind center. They also signed Drew Dahlman, who's a center, and is going to be just a guy to finish that process of bolstering the interior of the offensive line. Going to be probably a really solid player for Chicago if things go right. And for the defensive line, they bring in Grady Jarrett and they bring in Deo Odeyingbo, probably mispronounced it, but two really solid interior defensive linemen that they brought in. And again, the trenches was the main focal point for the Bears this offseason. They also bring in Zacchaeus from Washington, Travis Homer, Devin Duvernay, all solid depth pieces for the skill positions that they have, because they have really solid players there. They drafted Colston Loveland in the first round, and that's going to be a very solid fit for what Ben Johnson wants to run, and a good parent for Cole Kmet. And Ben Johnson, new addition, the new head coach, probably going to already be a lot better than Matt Eberflus, and that alone will make them a better team. The second round pick was Luther Burden III out of Missouri, and boy was that a fantastic pick. Going to fit in perfectly alongside Rome Odunze and DJ Moore. Going to play really well for this team, as well as some of the other draft picks to quickly mention. Ozzy Trapilo and Shamar Turner, more guys who bolster the trenches for Chicago, and they're going to be a better group than they were last year. There was no doubt about that. The Bears last year lost a lot of games because of poor game management, and poor clock management by Matt Eberflus. So him already being gone and bringing in Ben Johnson, his great offensive mind from Detroit last year, their team is going to be better. The question is how much better, and can they compete with the rest of the division and with the rest of the NFC? They just couldn't compete with them last year. And last year there was a time for Chicago where they were a really hot team, that they were in my top 10 for power rankings, but they had a fall off, and boy did it hit them hard. Only 3 wins in conference last season, only 1 divisional win last season, and that was week 18 against the Packers. A massive win, don't get me wrong there. But you need to win more in your conference and in your division if you're going to be taken seriously. They do have a 4th place schedule, which is definitely going to help them as well. I think they're better than a 4th place team and better than most 4th place teams from last year. So we'll see. But if Caleb Williams does not take the next step that he needs to, none of this is going to matter. If a lot of these other rookies from last year do not take the next step, it's not going to fully matter. This is a team that is probably going to take another year or two to truly get to a competitive state, but they're fully on the right track. The Packers continue to be a really solid team, and they clearly have not reached what their peak is for this young core that they have. And there's some feeling that they needed a true wide receiver one. And I kind of get it. I also kind of don't like when you have a whole monster of a room that they have. But their free agency, it wasn't all that abundant. They bring in McCole Hardman to be a depth piece at receiver. Big money was spent bringing in Aaron Banks to be a guy to bolster the interior of the offensive line after Josh Myers left for New York. And Nate Hobbs added to a corner room that saw 2 pieces part ways with the Packers in Jair Alexander and Eric Stokes. They finally drafted a receiver in the first round, and that's Matthew Golden out of Texas. And the idea is that he might be the true receiver one for the Packers, or Christian Watson can develop into a true receiver one. But even not, he ends up being another 1A, 1B option for the Packers. They are fine at receiver in my position. It is rare to have a receiver room with that much talent that the Packers have. They have like 4 or 5 guys that could all have fantastic days if needed. That's why I'm not too worried. And on top of it, they bring in another depth piece at receiver through the draft in Savion Williams out of TCU. This is a receiver room that you don't really have to worry about unless injuries riddle them again, which hopefully not. Anthony Belton is the other pick I kind of want to mention, an offensive tackle out of NC State. He might play this year, he might not play this year, but nonetheless, he's going to learn behind Rasheed Walker and Zach Tom. And Walker entering his final year of his deal. Zach Tom just signed a massive extension. So eventually, we're going to see Anthony Belton for the Packers. Just the question is when, not if. And this is a team that won 11 games last year and are going to have a third place schedule. They're going to be ready for the competition they're going to have this year. It is set up for another massive year of contention for the Packers. And not only in the division, but in the NFC as a whole. The question is just come playoff time, can they finally get those pieces to combine? To say, unlike the way it has been pretty much since 2020 and pretty much since the last Super Bowl. But we'll see. The Packers are going to be a threat nonetheless, though. I don't know how to feel about the Minnesota Vikings. They drastically overperformed last year, in my opinion, but at the same time, they did kind of underperform because of how good they were during last season, and they got bounced in the first round after winning 14 games. And they went on a bit of a spending spree this offseason. They started with signings of Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, two great additions to the interior of the defensive line. And what was already a fantastic front seven probably got better for the Vikings under Brian Flores. Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, and Justin Skulk are some offensive line additions for a room that could definitely be better and probably needs to be better with JJ McCarthy behind center this year. And then just a bunch of others, Eric Wilson, Tavari Thomas, Isaiah Rodgers, and Jeff Okuda. Some other additions to the defense, and they're going to be probably more so depth pieces at the end of the day for the Vikings. But that's still a nice thing to have. We saw that with the Lions last year. And then Tim Jones, another addition. This is a special teams addition. I feel like I should mention there. And then Jordan Mason was traded for to be the running back 2 behind Aaron Jones. That's going to be a great fit there as well. Rondell Moore brought in to be a depth receiver piece because I think Jordan Addison has some issues right now. But they have Justin Jefferson. They will be fine with a receiver one like that. And then the draft picks. Donovan Jackson can make an instant impact at guard for the Vikings. Ty Felton is also a nice depth add at receiver. And a lot of the success that Minnesota is going to have this season is going to depend on JJ McCarthy. Coming off of his injury in the preseason last year, how well can he play? Will he play in the preseason again? And can he just play smart with the football? He did at Michigan. He did during his brief stint in the preseason last year. He played incredible against the Raiders in that preseason game. The question is, can you bring it to the regular season? Can you do it against starting caliber defenses? And can you live up to the expectations, as Sam Darnold said? We'll see. They won 14 games last year. I'm not expecting them to win nearly that much again. The question is, what is the number going to be for a team pretty much led by a rookie quarterback? It felt like last season was the year for the Detroit Lions, but injuries destroyed what could have been a fantastic year, especially on that defense. And before all the injuries, they were a genuine step forward from what we saw in 2023. And again, they were looking dominant. They were set to be deadly, and it might be set to be that again, but not in the same way. They do lose both coordinators in Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and that's undoubtedly going to change how things are going to work with this team. I'm not saying that it does not matter for this Lions team. Those are going to be two big losses for them. The question is just really how big of a loss is it? And can the guy stepping up play to and coach to a similar level? The Lions went crazy on the additions to the defense, which make complete sense. 12 new signings for the Lions in this offseason. The main three total, DJ Reed and Marcus Davenport are newcomers, and they re-signed Derek Barnes. All three are going to be expected to perform at a pretty high level for this Lions team as they're looking to replace some guys that departed. Tyleik Williams was a nice addition to the draft, as well as to just put bodies on the defense that can perform at relatively high levels. And the final two picks I'll mention, Tate Ratledge and Miles Frazier, two guards for the offensive line that they drafted, one out of Georgia, one out of LSU. And they're going to be given a chance at some point. They're learning behind some incredible offensive linemen. So they're going to be great players when their time comes. I feel good in saying that. But they're not going to be asked to perform right away, the same way that a lot of these defensive guys are going to perform. And that's the key thing you're going to be hearing most of the season from the Lions. Is defense. Entering last season, I mentioned how I really needed to see other guys besides Aiden Hutchinson step up and perform. And that was the case last year, even before Hutchinson went down. And now you get Aiden Hutchinson back, and hopefully he plays a full season. The league is better when he plays a full season. So we'll see. The Lions won 15 games last year. That's not going to happen again. It is unrealistic, and it is just wrong for me to sit here and say they're going to win 15 games. But they're still going to be a great team that's still going to be able to compete. And just because a team loses more games than they did a year prior does not mean they're a worse team. Ask the Florida Panthers, ask the 73 Dolphins, ask any team that has repeated. A lot of times they'll say that the second year they felt like they were a better team despite losing more games. It's just the nature of things because you have that more experience under your belt. We'll see if the Lions are a similar way with that. If they finish with, they need to finish with 10 plus wins, ideally 12 plus wins. But we'll see. They're not going to have the easiest of schedules, but this is the Lions we're talking about. I have faith in Dan Campbell. He's going to be able to get things done with this team. So we'll see. The main question, can they be ready for the playoffs this year? And can they be healthy and healthy enough to get over the hump? So now for the divisional predictions. And I'm probably going to be in a minority in saying this, but I do have the Minnesota Vikings finishing last in this division. It's not that I don't trust JJ McCarthy. I don't trust this team to win 14 games again. I don't really trust them to win 10 games. It's going to be a weird year for the Vikings. Much in the same way after 2022 when they won the division and they outperformed expectations, and then the next year they had that fall off. I'm expecting a similar thing for the Vikings this year. This fantastic season, won a lot of games no one expected them to win. You're not going to get the same luck you did last year. You're not going to get the same bounce of the ball. I think they're going to lose games that they would have won last year. So because of that, I have them finishing last, and it's going to be a really tough division to really be able to win. Saying that, I have the Chicago Bears finishing third. I think they'll take a step in the right direction. I don't think it's enough of a step just yet. I think they still have some room to work as with this team. And it's still a pretty young team, at least at the skill position. So I think there's room to grow. I'm not saying they're going to be another ninth overall pick type team. I think they'll probably be a game or two away from the playoffs, but it's still going to be enough for third in this division. The Green Bay Packers have finished in second and being a playoff team, and I think they're going to be just fine. Them having a third place schedule alone makes me very tempted to put them as division winners this year. I'm just not willing to go to that extreme just yet. I think they're going to finish damn close to the Lions in the division, though. It's going to be a really tight race at the end of the season. And with that, the Detroit Lions have winning the division. Again, they're going to be a lot healthier. I think they're going to be a better team this year and maybe not win 15 games, but they're still going to be a better team. They're going to play better. The coordinators being gone definitely does make me a little question some things, but I do trust Dan Campbell that much. I think the Lions will be just fine and ready to compete. So there you have it, my predictions for the NFC North, a quick little rundown of that division. Hope you all enjoyed, and stay tuned for next week when we discuss the AFC West. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.